Those of you who followed my channel since the start, hello, you one person. I know there are a few people who watch my streams who have been, watching since the beginning. But you got to know that I am very much an American. I'm all for liberty, freedom. I talk about it a lot. I write about it a lot. But one of the overarching rules of FranLab, the channel, has been since the beginning that it's not supposed to be about politics, and I don't talk about politics in the videos, and I don't allow political discussion in the forums and chats and stuff. It's like, no, we don't do that here. Here we do science, and we talk about technology, and we do teardowns, and we do art stuff. I show films and everything, but it's not about politics. And I have done everything in my power to keep politics out of this lab. And then last week, politics came and kicked in the front door and sat down in the lab and won't leave. And I got no choice, because about a week ago, our new overlords passed a decree, made it the law of the land, that there are now and forever two sexes, male and female, and that these two sexes are not changeable. That's part one. And part two was that to anyone who is entrapped by the federal system, if you get into the federal penal system, that all inmates are going to be housed in the facility that matches the sex that they were assigned at birth, no exceptions. But in this one kind of brief but overarching decree, transsexuals no longer exist in the United States. It is the official law of the land that transsexuals do not exist, and intersex people do not exist. It has been declared that there is only XX and XY and nothing else exists. La la la. And so I have to make this video to be what seems like a singular voice, because I have not heard or read anything about anyone saying anything to the contrary of this. Now, I did write a long time ago an essay that has been up on my trans blog for a long time. I forget the date I posted it, but it's been a long time ago, where I talked about all of the genetic and biological differences in the sexes in the human species that exist. All of these people, myself included, have been basically, we have been disappeared legally as of last week. Lots of questions that are unanswered because they didn't address anything like the birth certificates that we all got, I was issued an amended, brand new birth certificate. It's not the one that I was assigned at birth. It's a new birth certificate, and I have a passport. And it hasn't come out yet whether or not our passports and birth certificates are going to be annulled. But let me start from the top. I'm only going to speak for the United States. I'm not going to speak for the world. Only going to speak for the US, because this only affects, currently, people in the United States. Which is that, and this is going to blow your mind if you didn't go to school or learn about it, every human being is female. Every human being is female at conception. And for about the first 7 weeks, every human being is female. That's the default setting of a human being, is female. It's the default setting. The changes that happen to make a male don't begin until like 9 weeks in. And then it takes like about 12 weeks for like any kind of male structural biological stuff, genitalia or whatever, to begin to form. Again, people think, oh, this is because of sex chromosomes, but it isn't, because just having the male sex chromosomes doesn't make you into a male or a man. It doesn't mean that you're born physiologically male. All these complicated things have to happen, and it's mostly triggered by hormones that are released by the mother in utero at critical times that turn on genes in the developing fetus to make it into a man. And so there are all kinds of physiological variations, and some of the ambiguous genitalia happen because of the fact that this timing, this dance of hormones and development is off, and the child is born with ambiguous genitalia. That is not in this law either. And one of the things about that in utero, I wrote in this blog that's on my transgender essays blog from so many years ago, the single physiological trait that shows physical sex other than genitalia is finger length. Finger length. Statistically, across our species, finger length shows the sex of the individual. As I showed in the essay, the distinctive variations in the finger lengths of males and females is the single most reliable guideline for determining biological sex, aside from physical genitalia, right? And as I pointed out in the essay, my finger length pattern is female. So, the other part of this new decree, okay, other than the fact that, as I've been explaining how wrong it is, like I said, hasn't been answered, hasn't been even brought up what's going to happen to all of people like myself who have new birth certificates since the time of our birth and have passports and such. Are we going to be backwound and nullified? Hasn't come down from the top yet, still waiting for the royal decree on that. But what has been said is that anyone who gets entangled in the federal system, the penal system, will be incarcerated in the facility that matches their sex at birth, which means that transsexuals, trans women, are going to be going to male prison. And I guess currently what's happening is that anyone who's currently incarcerated who happens to be trans is being they're being moved to the other facility. People who are not in the know would probably just say right off the bat, well, Fran, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Well, let me talk about that. You don't have to commit any crime to be in jail in the United States. We have, in the United States, the largest incarcerated population on the planet. Per capita, we have more people in jail for our population than any other nation. More than China, Russia, Iran, India. You name any country, we're number one by a long, long shot. But what you probably don't know is that 70% of everyone incarcerated, put in jail, doing, jail time right now in the United States, 70% of them haven't even gone to trial. They're just accused of a crime, not convicted. 70% of everyone in jail in the United States is there because they are accused of a crime, not convicted. So what this means is, in the current climate, political climate, people like myself just have to be accused of wrongdoing to be incarcerated. Knowing that trans women are going to be going to men's prisons, an accusation leads to a death sentence, possibly, or at the very least, torture. And the idea that this could all be politically motivated, that people can be accused or incarcerated because they made a politician angry. And in the United States, because there are so many people in prison awaiting trial, you can wait a year or more before you even get your trial. So you didn't commit a crime, but prosecutors are building a case, and if they want to build a really good case against you, they'll keep you in jail for a really long time. So it could be a year or more before you even get your trial to find out that you actually are innocent and did not commit a crime, but you still spent a year or more in jail. And if you're trans, you've spent a year or more in a men's jail for doing nothing except being on the wrong side of politics, for example. See, in the United States, we have a bail system, so if you're wealthy, you don't go to jail if you're accused of a crime. You pay bail and you stay out. If you're not rich and you can't pay bail, and bail, depending on what you're charged with or accused of, could be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, rich people just pay the bail and stay at home. But if you can't pay the bail, you go to jail. That's the system we have in the United States. So you can see how all this worries me about political purges, vindictiveness, and the war against trans people, that I find myself right in the front of all of a sudden. And this is where it gets to the final part of this, which is that, hey, I'm Fran of FranLab. My job, I have it written in my office. I have a little thing that I have on my monitor. It says that my job is just to get people to forget about their troubles, try to entertain them, try to educate, and do a little science. That is my job. This, what I'm doing today, this is not supposed to be my job. But it's my job now because my fellow YouTubers, with a few exceptions, are mostly guys who none of this will ever affect. They'll never be on the front lines of a culture war doing electronics. I didn't ask to be at the front lines of a culture war. I didn't even ask to be publicly out. That I was outed decades ago by somebody who just thought that it was their business to be making my business public business. Because at the time that I was outed, I didn't even have a public life. I wasn't on social media. I didn't do videos, none of that stuff. I got into doing videos and everything because I was outed, because my career got destroyed and my company got taken down. Because when people found out that I was a complete abomination and an affront to God and nature, nobody would buy my pedals anymore. And it uprooted my life and changed the course of my life. And over the decades, I have tried and tried and tried to steer away from even talking about trans stuff. I'd say, okay, I did that, talked about that, I did the blog, I did the videos, can we talk about other stuff now? And every so many years, I get drawn back into it. A few years ago, it was because Google was starting to falsely generate a whole bunch of controversy about me based on their algorithm. Made videos about that, they fixed that. And now, here, 2025, I'm having to do it again because the United States government declared that I do not exist. And they've started taking away my rights. So now I have to do this, make this video, talk about this on my channel. And do I have to do this fight every day now? Maybe. Because for my other YouTubers, they're not going to spend precious energy and time dealing with the idea of being erased or being put in a federal penitentiary because some political thing. They never have to worry about that. I do. Puts me in a different league of having to work this job, to fight for the right to do this job. I shouldn't have to fight for the right to be an YouTuber, but I do. And I'm not even going to say that I'm angry. I'm frustrated that this just doesn't stop. Just doesn't stop. And I can only speak for myself, although I know that I'm also speaking for a lot of people. I know there are a lot of people in this boat. But not everybody who's in this boat has the kind of footprint that I do. And because I'm really out there and because I've got so much exposure because of this channel and, as an engineer, a scientist, an educator, I'm in an unusually precarious position in relation to my peers. And so I have cause to worry. I have always been an independent. I've never belonged to a political party. I've always been an independent. But I've always been a constitutionalist. I've always believed in this country. I built my life on liberty. I'm on the public record, you know. Created Frantone. I've always had business. I had Scanline Productions before I had Frantone. I've made all kinds of things. Made my own way in life. Been self-employed since the 90s. If there's a person who's lived by American liberty and what America is supposed to be, you're looking at them right here. And I am going to be erased? Me? A real, true American? Me, a true American. How many of these people who are criticizing me have created anything American, created a business, done anything of value, changed minds for the better, helped people? We're living in an age and a time where the very idea of kindness and decency is seen as something evil and vile and something to be destroyed. The idea that communication and concession, working together, is a sin to be vanquished. That charity and decency is a weakness to be punished. That the more cruel that you can be is virtuous. The idea that giving fealty to your tribe is honorable. And doing anything decent and kind and good for someone who's not in your tribe is a crime. And thinking for yourself is abhorrent. This is the country I'm living in right now. I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to do this. I'm trying to do the lab, trying to do bench work, trying to get videos done like I always have, but hanging over me the sword of Damocles by a gossamer thread. I don't want to be in this position. Just want to live my life. Just want to be treated like a decent human being. I'm not going to even use words like respect or justice. I mean, what does that mean? There's no justice. What does respect mean? I shouldn't have to be put in the position of having to make a video like this. It's not fair. It's a burden that's not shared by everybody, not my peers, some of them, but not many. But definitely number one, first and foremost, I want to thank my patrons, because my patrons have supported me since I started Patreon. What was it, 2017 now? And my patrons have always stuck there with me. I've had this large rotation of people. I think I just issued my 2000th Top Team FranLab membership card this past week. When you get the card, you'll know who you are. but that has been a rotation throughout since 2017. There have been thousands of people who have supported FranLab over the years. I currently have about 1,400 supporters currently on Patreon that are actually supporting FranLab, and about 65% of them are like $1, $2 pledges. So, I mean, it seems like a large number, but dollar-wise, it's not as much as you would think. Now, if everybody who was pledging $1 or $2 just pledged $5, we would not have to worry about FranLab. I mean, that's like the reality of it. But you know, there are a lot of legacy patrons, but I appreciate every single person who supports FranLab.
That's where I work.
berserk. In my lab, it's where I work. Friend Lab, it's what you're watching. Friend Lab, it's what I'm doing. Working at the bench.